Hello everyone, this is the start of a new series that I'm going to try and do. I've recently been getting into Terraria, and I wondered, how many items are actually in Terraria? And I looked, and I think the total number is, I think it's close to almost 5,000 here. Let's say, yeah, 5,452 items in Terraria. So that's how many there are. There's 5,452 items, right? And then there's a few extra that are like um, DS exclusive that they removed, or some stuff that's now unobtainable. But you'll see I have a marker for those as we go through. So these are just a bunch of the different worlds I made. Because the rules for this one was I was allowed to go to different worlds as long as they weren't like all item seed worlds. Like that wouldn't make any sense if you could just grab all the items from there. But I could use different seeds to try and get certain items. So like if there was a seed that had, for example, like an anklet of the wind for lightning boots or something, I could go there and grab the anklet of the wind. Nothing else. I couldn't grab anything else. Just the one thing. Um, but yeah, honestly, and there was like no glitches or whatever. None of that. Actually getting all the items individually. Um, I'm just something new I'm trying out. So I was thinking of doing this was my original world. I've been on this world for a while. If you go back, I have like 340 hours. I believe before this, I'll do a pan back. So as you can see here, this is my old one. So I had 165 to start. So around 200 hours went into this. But I believe before this, I had 117 hours on this character, something like that. 100, might have been 170, but definitely took a lot of time. But yeah, this is after I have done everything. If there was a particularly hard item or something took a really long time to get, I'll do a cut back to when I was actually searching for it. Um, but these beginning items, a lot of these are pretty simple. A lot of the stuff, this is just a bunch of stuff that you would normally get at the very beginning of your run, and just like the very basic bare bones. And and all of this was in, my main world, this world was in classic. Um, but I had to go to, master mode, sometimes expert, to get particular items because they were exclusives. But yeah, there was no journey mode used at all. So it was just all other stuff. I'm just going to get set up here. Just so I have peace and quiet while we're doing stuff. So yeah, and I have each of my chests labeled by the numbers in increments of 40, right? All the way up to 5,442 up there. That'd be the last one. I just have an extra one at the end I just labeled anyways. But yeah. And I had all the different storage stuff. Then I had a lot of items that were left over from me playing and beating the Moon Lord on this seed previously. As you can see, I've explored quite a bit of this map, right? And I actually did set up the pylons. That's something I did in my kind of free time. I didn't have those set up before. Yeah, and I just kind of went through actually a lot of the jungle. But yeah, eventually I'm probably going to do like a kind of exploring everything. I just have this one big spot here. I got a big spot over here, but we'll eventually get to it. But yeah, just to jump into the first 40 here. So, got the iron pickaxe. It's a lot of people's most common, like, first upgrade, kind of. Some people honestly just skip to platinum, which is usually what I do, but yeah, this is just kind of the next step up there. Stone. Stone. Stone's everywhere. Same thing with dirt. I mean, there's tons of it all around here. And yeah, these are kind of like the staples. And then you got this iron swords, broadsword, short sword, and then the hammer. And then the mushroom, first way that you actually kind of gain life. Like if you don't have a bottle yet to make potions, I feel like a lot of people just get to the potion part because they get dropped in chests everywhere, but you can always craft them with some mushrooms. And then you got the torches, another thing that's easy to craft by hand, and helps you get a bunch of stuff. Like if you look in the crafting menu here, like two nice campfires for life regen, and flaming arrows, a very nice early upgrade to your just regular wooden arrows, which we'll get to later. Wood, I use so much wood. I had to go to, actually, I think there was a couple of times I had to go to a different world just to farm for more wood. Because wood's in a lot of stuff. Because there's all the different crafting, like crafting benches and um, like the different, like the sawmill and the loom and stuff that require wood. And there's also just some other like furniture items, and then living wood, also just regular wood, but with the living loom. There's another axe for trees, and then here's your 4 kind of basic ores, right? Your iron, copper, gold, silver, right? All your tools are starting with copper. Gold you can use for a lot of stuff. Iron is most valuable pre-hard mode and post-hard mode, or in hard mode, I should say. Just for the mechanical boss summons, and I think a lot of people do stuff with minecarts. And you're gonna need iron, a lot of iron for those. Copper honestly is kind of worthless. I'm not gonna lie. After those beginning tools, you really don't use it very much anymore. And the gold, if you want to make some king slime summons, or gold armor's not terrible. The staff is pretty okay. And then for silver, it's just a nice set of armor for like pre-hard mode, pre-boss, honestly. But the ancient shadow armor is better, but it's kind of hard to get that super early. Then the different watches, right? Just to help you tell time and stuff before you get the shell phone and all this other stuff. It's just pretty simple to craft. It's just a chain and whatever the ore you have. Nice, simple. The depth meter I believe is from tons of stuff that that it drops from. The crawdads, giant bats, ice bats, giant shelly, jungle bat. It's probably gonna be a lot of people's first accessories that's not from chests. And also the salamanders, if you're lucky enough to get them in one of your worlds. Yeah. And then here's the bars, the full forms of each of the ores. Which, I think it's just 4, I believe? 3. Just 3. Which is nice. And I also like how the extractinators kind of switch the ores around. So, like, in one world you either get gold, copper, silver, and iron, or you get platinum, tin, lead, and is platinum. The copper counterpart is tin. The iron counterpart is lead, and the silver counterpart is tungsten. That's right. So tungsten, yeah. So tungsten is the silver. The gel, you get it from slimes. You can see actually some of it right there. Ammo for the flamethrower, which is pretty sweet. Nice Plantera weapon there. That's what I beat my Plantera with the first couple times I fought him. It's King Slime, and then they have the whole slime set of furniture and everything. Pretty fun. And then you have the wooden sword, which I don't know why you would make that ever, but yeah, it's a weapon, I guess. But I mean, everything else is just so much better. Even honestly, the copper sword is a little bit. I think it might even be a little stronger. I think it's around the same though. The wooden doors, helpful everywhere around the house. That's how you get NPCs in some cases. Some walls, right? You got stone and dirt. You need walls. Easiest one to get is the stuff that's everywhere. Acorns usually get from knocking or cutting down trees. Usually get more from cutting down trees, or you always get more, I should say. And then your first actual kind of potion of recovery. Take a lesser healing potion you made with a couple mushrooms and a glass bottle. But you usually get a bunch of those because you get them from bosses and stuff, and chests everywhere. And then the life crystals is the first actual way of increasing your health. And you can throw them in the shimmer to get a permanent life regen upgrade, which is pretty nice. And then I have the light fruits, so I have the next level up, but still, going from 20, 40, or I guess going from 100 to 400 is pretty good, especially early game. Definitely, I think you can definitely beat a lot of bosses early game doing that. Then you got the bottles, standard for pretty much every potion that you're gonna make, especially recovery potions early on. But all around something super helpful. And then the wooden table can be used for, I think the wooden table is only 8, while the workbench is 10. with the workbench, you can also just craft some stuff. So it's nice to have for NPC housing. Right, I think I use a lot of tables for mine. Yep, I use a bunch of wooden tables. I got some obsidian tables from down in hell, but yeah, I sprinkle in some workbenches here and there just so I can have a way to craft while I'm on the go. Then you get your furnace, first way you actually make all these ores. And I noticed, this is going to come up a lot, but I noticed that a lot of the times in Terraria, the stuff that requires, or that you need to make something that's, like, in order to make these gold bars, you need a furnace, but the furnace is lower in the item ID list than the bars themselves. So I just think that's funny. That happens a lot I've noticed, with different items and stuff. It's pretty cool. Yeah, even like right here, like these goggles need lenses, but the lenses are after the goggles. I just think it's funny. And these wooden chairs, probably the first chair you can have an NPC sit in. Just kind of, regular wooden chair. And you got your iron anvil. You're just using all these metal bars to do armor and swords and all that other stuff. And then, here's the workbench, your standard for crafting pretty much everything in Terraria. Everything kind of stems from the workbench. Right, there's a lot of stuff you can make without it, but in order to get there, you need to get a lot of stuff crafted through the workbench. Then you got the goggles. Honestly, I've never seen anyone use these ever, for anything other than vanity. Anyway, I've seen some people use them for vanity, but even then, like, very little. It's really, because they're not a material for anything, they're just kind of there. You got lenses, you need these for some mechanical boss summons, the twins especially. You can make suspicious eyes for the Eye of Cthulhu with them. And then I think if you get the black lenses, which is the rare variant, you can make sunglasses. Those I've seen people wear a lot more. Yeah, then we have the kind of your first ranged weapon in these in this item ID list. Kind of an actual, it was just a bow. I mean, yeah. And then combined with the arrows, about 10 damage, which isn't terrible. That's a very early weapon for people who want to kind of fight at a range instead of going up to stuff. I don't like the melee weapons early, just because you're locked into like whatever way you're swinging, even if you want to move it a different way. I don't like how that does that. That's why I like, well, yeah, Zeniths is pretty good for other things too, but that's why I particularly like it, because I can kind of swing it wherever I want. Yeah, then these wooden arrows, not a lot of people use these because they pretty much almost always upgrade them to these flaming arrows, like, immediately. So, but yeah, still pretty good. I'm gonna switch stuff in here. But yeah, so that was the first 40 items. This is going to be a pretty long series, because I'm planning on doing 40, maybe 80 items per. For the first one, I want to keep it shorter, even if the items were pretty simple. I just want to keep it shorter just so I get the flow down, and just kind of see how long this would take. But yeah, if you like Terraria, or if you have any questions about the items, please let me know, and hope you guys have a great day.